Hi everyone, and welcome back. I hope that you enjoyed that break and were able to get up and get moving and are ready for our last session of the day. I am Allison Coleman, back with NRPA, and I'm joined for this session by Dr. Danielle Holler, and she is going to walk us through NRPA's brand new Foods of the Month curriculum. Please feel free to ask questions throughout this training. We really want you guys to find this beneficial. So any questions you have regarding the nutrition literacy component, feel free to just put them right in that question box and we will make sure to address them. Danielle?
Great, well thank you. It's very exciting to be here, the last presentation, so it's always the tough one to bring it up at the end, but we're hoping that you're going to find this to be a really fun presentation and learn a lot about this great curriculum that you can use throughout the entire year. So first of all, I just wanted to mention that I've been developing these types of projects for lots of organizations around the United States and even some abroad. And everyone seems to be finding this template, this model of education, very useful. And with respect to what I've been doing with NRPA, we have been collaborating since the summer of 2012 on this exact type of process that you're going to be able to implement this year. We've been tweaking it, refining it, making it really useful for people that are at sites like yours and have really learned a lot. And just so you know, you've heard the word evidence-based a few times today. I thought I would explain a little bit about why we feel that we can say that this is an evidence-based curriculum. In addition to creating the curriculum and all the fun pieces that we'll talk about in a few minutes, we also put together a very rigorous evaluation design over the years since 2012 that has included surveys and focus groups and observations. And the point of this was to understand the impact, to understand the efficacy of this type of nutrition literacy programming with respect to young kids that you take care of. So one of the years of the data that we were able to analyze were actually presented at the Academy of Dietetics and Nutrition's annual meeting. Now, a lot of you may not know about this organization, but it's an international nutrition-oriented professional association, and it's actually really tough to get in there. So the fact that we were able to be reviewed by the PhDs and MDs and RDs who run this program and we were found to have enough evidence that what our science showed to improve nutrition was really, really good. And so what we were presenting at this meeting were the surveys of children and parents and staff at locations such as yours. So what we were able to show is that for children, their improvement in knowledge was very, very strong. It was what we consider statistically significant when we analyzed the results from the beginning to the end. They also reported improvements in their eating behaviors. They were eating more fruits and vegetables, eating more lean proteins, consuming fewer sugar-sweetened beverages, and so forth. And able to understand what the impact is on the parents of children, we also had a small set of parents that completed the surveys, and we found similar results. Again, improvements in the education or knowledge about nutrient-rich foods and food groups, and then also they were changing their behaviors too. And similar to some of the presentations earlier, we're really seeing that the children are driving the changes in the parents. Children learn about foods, they learn about cooking, they learn about food preparation at your sites, and then they go home and they're educating their parents. And we can see through these surveys that this actually is happening. And then finally, all of the staff, all of you in your locations, you're learning a lot. And this is what the survey also showed, that staff had a significant improvement in knowledge and actually were changing their behaviors too. So this is really important, this changing eating behaviors and changing physical activity behaviors, because you are role models. Role modeling is just so important. So that's a little bit of the background behind what we're doing and how we've evolved to this latest iteration of nutrition literacy that we're calling the Foods of the Month component.
Yeah, that's so great. So I want to take just a few moments, and we're going to go ahead and flip that screen over, and I want to show you guys how you can access these materials. Part of the reasoning for developing these was that we wanted something to be easily accessible and downloadable, as well as free, so cost wasn't an issue when trying to implement a nutrition education program. So we have put all of these materials on NRPA's website. If you have a computer near you, again, not the one that you are tuning into the webcast on, but if you've got one near you or a mobile device, feel free to go to www.nrpa.org, and I will walk you through how you can access these materials. So it's actually one of these fun little home screens here, so it pops right up when you get there, but if it's not on there when you come to it, you're going to go to Grants and Partners and hover your mouse over that. And click on Recreation and Health. Again, hover that mouse right over that. And you're going to go to our main Commit to Health page. So all of our Commit to Health materials, and Foods of the Month is part of that, are located under that Commit to Health page. All right, so when you get to the Commit to Health homepage, you'll notice that there are some other links you can click off of right on the right side here. One is to pledge to implement those HEPA standards. So if we have some new faces out there, we certainly hope that you'll be clicking that later today or this week when you guys make the decision to commit to health. And we also have our Foods of the Month nutrition curriculum. So clicking right on that takes you to the Foods of the Month curriculum. So as you can see here, we have lesson plan guides, Foods of the Month posters, newsletters with tips and recipes each month, coloring and activity pages, experiential activities, etc. Lots of materials for each month. We also have the full calendar available for download, and then each of the months broken down. So as you can see, we have June through December currently available. I know that one of the questions that will probably come in is, are these materials available in Spanish? So we have slowly been working on getting all of these materials developed in Spanish, the newsletters each month, as well as the posters. And you will see that on some of the months they are currently available. Others should be available very shortly. We know that that has been a request, and we are happy to deliver that to our agencies. We will be putting those up there. But as you can see, everything is easily downloadable, and you can open up any of these documents. Oh, I think this computer doesn't let us open PDFs for some reason, but you should be able to open those at home. So I just wanted to show you guys that really quickly of how you can access these materials. Should be pretty simple and easy to use. We've had that feedback all summer long, so we're hoping that you guys feel the same way this fall. Back to you, Danielle.
Great. Well, I'm just so excited. It's wonderful when you spend all this time developing pieces of a curricula and you see them online live and being used. So thank you all for working so much on that. So what I figured we'd do now to be able to orient you to everything that Allison just told you is on the website, we're going to just walk through all of the pieces of the curricula that are on the website and then take you through how to implement a week in September.
Awesome.
Great.
That'd be great.
So the first thing I want to point out is the Foods of the Month calendar. And again, this is downloadable on the website. And this, I think, would be the central thing to keep posted somewhere in your office as you're trying to remember what Foods of the Month are coming month to month. This also can be used in a location where the children and parents frequently come in and out of your building so that they can see that you have a specific curriculum and a specific set of objectives for learning for your children with regards to nutrition.
Awesome. And we've actually got a little poll coming in right now, and we were curious to know what your favorite foods of the month were on that calendar, and it looks like we have an overwhelming response for tropical fruits, which is great. I'm sure people have been enjoying those all summer long, so perhaps that's why they stuck out on that calendar.
Yeah, wow. I shouldn't be surprised because tropical fruits are so yummy and so wonderfully full of fiber, but I am surprised that tropical fruits was the first one.
Yeah.
But it's that time of year. We're all enjoying it.
I guess so. I'm ready for tomatoes though, myself.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Been enjoying those lately.
Me too. I have tomatoes growing out of my ears, as my grandmother would say, in our garden at home. And I have some pictures of tomatoes in some of our slides coming up that I picked from the garden last night.
Awesome.
But also go out right now, it's stone fruit time. Get your peaches and plums.
Yep.
Alrighty, so the other piece of the curriculum that's available online for each month is something that's going to be your guideline, your major document, your major planning piece for every single month. And this is what we're calling the lesson plan guides. And we'll go through this in more detail in a few minutes, but it essentially will walk you through a suggested way to use all of the items, all of the information that's on the website for a particular month. And again, this is not to be prescriptive. You don't have to do things in this order as listed on the lesson plan. You don't have to do everything on the lesson plan. This is just a suggestion. And also I wanted to point out, just like you heard earlier today, the curricula are divided into K-2 and 3-5. And so the guide that you see here is for grades 3 through 5 in particular.
And just to add to that, you'll also notice that on the website, when you go to download those materials, they are separated into grades 3 through 5 and grades K through 2. So you should be able to match the lesson plan guide with those documents. Great.
So going through to the next component that's on the website and also likely to be at your site in a hard copy form are the monthly posters. They're bright, they're colorful, they have information about the foods. Post these in high traffic areas. You can get a lot of use out of these. Laminate them if you want to, so that they will last year to year. And also know that you can download small versions of these so that you can post them in other places. And we wanted to point out that on some posters you're going to see a little logo image that is a reminder for those particular foods or food groups that you can grow in your own garden. And that's what the little arrow at the bottom is pointing to. If you look down there on the poster on the left, you'll see a note that indicates that this is something you can grow in your garden too. Another really wonderful component that is in English and Spanish are the monthly newsletters. These are able to be downloaded and printed and sent home with every child. You can use them with the children during education at your site. But they have really great information about the variety of foods for whatever the foods of the month happens to be. Also healthy tips on how to integrate those foods into your daily menus and daily eating habits. And then also a bunch of recipes. Some of them are complex, but most of them are very easy to use.
Yeah, I know that I've tried quite a few this summer and I've enjoyed most of them. And actually we did some site visits with a few local agencies this summer and we got to see some of these recipes being used and in action, and it seems like most people are enjoying them. So we've got a little poll out right now asking if you guys think you'll prepare any of the new recipes in the newsletters. We certainly hope that you will. It looks like we're kind of going back and forth and splitting here, but it looks like about 60% of you are interested in trying them, and that number keeps getting higher, so that's great. We really encourage you guys to use these materials as well. Again, we're talking a lot about that role modeling today, so making sure that you're participating in the different aspects of this program along with your program participants. Really helps to get that message across.
And some of the recipes are cooked recipes. You have to use an oven or a toaster oven or something, and some of them are not. Some of them are like the raw recipes. So you can find ways to be able to integrate these into your activities at your site as well, in a variety of ways, especially the ones that don't require cooking. Another component that's really focused on the children, and again it's divided into K-2 and 3-5, are coloring and activity sheets. And these are great to download, and usually they're linked to some type of academic objective. And so I know in the after school program you're usually having to do literacy, language arts reading, math, science, and those types of subjects as part of your program. And so you can use these tools, the coloring and activity sheets, as a fulfillment for those objectives as well. And so in September, these are two little examples of, one of them is for practicing writing capital T's and lower T's, and then the other one is practice with adjectives. What types of adjectives would you use to describe tomatoes? So again, taking the food of the month, tomatoes, and being able to talk more about it with children as they're practicing their other skills. Another fun component are the experiential activities, and these are a wide variety of activities that you can lead, from taste tests to cooking lessons, and again, a lot of them integrate into the core subjects that the children need to be taught. This example here, I'll talk about it more in detail in a minute, but it's essentially about a tomato plant and what the sun does, and if you take sun away, what happens to the plant. So it's a nice science project as well as learning about gardening. Another component that we're really excited to include are a bunch of resources that are related to the USDA MyPlate and other resources that USDA has made readily available. For example, the image on the left it looks like a picture of I guess it's a piece of bread with spaghetti hair talking about whole grains. And so this is for September. And this is for pre-K, kindergarten, maybe first grade, but it's teaching them sight words and helping them learn about whole grains, but also learning really basic words. And this is a document that is in booklet form you can get from the USDA, and we have a link to where you can get that, or you can use it electronically on a tablet or show it on a screen, but it's really cute. And then the other one is just a fun treasure hunt where you're essentially walking through a grocery store and identifying all of the foods that are on the MyPlate.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, along with those USDA resources, a lot of those things are available and can actually be physically sent to you guys as well. So if you're in a situation where maybe you're looking at your printing budget and it's getting a little bit high, utilize those USDA resources. They will mail you them. You just need to place an order from their website. So you can get copies of the actual MyPlate, which are really, really helpful. And you can get a number of those resources, as well as tips for parents and newsletters and things like that. So utilize all of the resources within this program.
Yeah, that's a great point. And on the lesson guide, we have some links to where you can go to request those hard copy get physical copies of those yourself. Another category within the curriculum is focused on the topics of being active. So it's called Fun Being Active. And so in this section, you'll see lots of different sheets that have suggestions on how to be active during the month. And a lot of times I try to find items included there that are linked to the food of the month as well. Just like you see here on the right hand side, the Great Grains Obstacle Course. It's a great way to have the children think about whole grains in all their many forms, but then also running around through an obstacle course. Resources for the home is another section that on the website that's really, really wonderful. Has a whole bunch of suggested things to be able to do to make the messages reach the home. And there's a particular component that we'll talk about later that has a texting. Actually, you talked about it earlier as well.
Yeah, we did. We'll talk about it again later, though, too.
Yes, but that's also to help get this information into the home.
Yep.
And speaking of, here's just an image real quick before we go into detail about it, just as a reminder that we do have the texting program. It's a fun Friday text, really healthy messages, and there is some marketing material available that you see here in this image as well.
And I'll actually give a little shout out there. That photo is from the city of Brookline in Massachusetts, and they blew those posters up and placed them in all of their facilities. So that's a great way to get that message out there to parents. And it was also available in their aquatics facility, so really anyone coming in could sign up for that program.
And if you're interested in what this specific text looked like, I did a screenshot of my phone. And so that's they're the three latest messages that came out. They've been going out since June, so we have quite a few in our thread, but those are the latest three. So what I want to really point out is that this is your nutrition literacy program. All of these resources are available. They're all free. They might cost a little bit for photocopying and such, but it's all available, but it's yours. So you're the creative agent here. Use what you can that works in your context and try to link it to what's happening in your community. Link it to the farmers in your community. Link it to gardening. Link it to sporting events that are happening in your community. Make it local. And of course, it may be that you're a new nutrition educator, or maybe you've never thought of yourself as a nutrition educator, but you are one. You're going to be a nutrition educator as you implement this program. And you want it to be fun for the kids. It's going to be fun for you too. So focus on fun. And you're going to find that it's actually a lot easier than you think.
Yeah.
But first of all, we've talked about it a few times today, staff role modeling. I just wanted to hit this home again a little bit, but we want to really focus on what it means to be a staff role model. When we're talking about nutrition and healthy living, we want to eat and drink nutritious foods in front of the children. We don't want to bring the non-nutritive foods and beverages into the area where the children are. So we want to eat well, but not bring in bad things, so to speak. We want to be active. When the kids are active, you should be moving. Move around. Don't sit in the chair while the children are running around doing relays. Be active with them. Be someone who encourages children to try new things. It's likely that a lot of the things that might be tasted are things new to you as well, because a lot of the foods you may not have had before. Cruciferous vegetables, everyone always says, what are they? Well, you've had them, you just don't know they're called that. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. But you might not think that you care for cabbage in a certain way, but some of the recipes we have in that newsletter might show you different. And so encourage the children to try these new foods. Children at some Head Starts that I was working with in Louisiana tried asparagus prepared 3 ways, loved it, went home and asked their parents for it. That's what we want to see happening in your sites as well. New, interesting foods to get everyone to eat more healthily.
Yeah, and I will say that we have seen that quite a bit over the last couple of years. You know, we're seeing that take place within our park and recreation sites, and it's really exciting. And I think it's exciting for everyone involved, not just us, but for as site leaders. You know, knowing that you're making a difference, knowing that your lesson on a cruciferous vegetable had an impact on a child and taught them something really interesting. So that's fantastic. We do have a poll going on right now, and I'm really happy to say that it seems like most of you think that you know how to be a good role model for healthy eating and daily exercise, and we don't doubt that at all. I'm sure you guys are doing a great job within your sites, and hopefully some aspects of this program can help to enhance what you're already doing.
Yeah, I really think that the HEPA training has been really beneficial for sites to be able to feel more confident in what you're doing as role models. Understanding these new policies and implementing them, I think, brings a new level of awareness that helps all of us become better role models.
Absolutely. And I will pause right there because we do have a question from Manuel, who is curious about promoting the texting program at other sites other than where they're only offering nutrition literacy. So that is okay. Yeah, we encourage you to promote that program within your community. So absolutely, if you've got additional sites where you want to put up flyers or posters, then please go ahead and do that. That would be wonderful.
Invite everybody.
Invite everyone, yeah. Invite your family and your friends.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through a typical week. Now let's pretend it's the first week of September. So we're going to be focusing on tomatoes finally.
Yes.
Allison's been waiting for this. So we're going to walk through the guides. We're going to point out the web-based resources for each. We want to remind you that they're free online and that a lot of them are accessible through USDA and hard copy. It's going to be lots and lots of fun. And the goal is not onerous. It can be anywhere from 10 to 60 minutes at a time. You can do 10 minutes on Monday and 10 minutes on Thursday, or you can do 60 minutes on Friday. You can do whatever seems to fit into what you're doing already. So there's no prescribed method for this. We just want to be able to get things moving. So we already talked about the webpage, so we don't have to do that. So we're going to jump over to the lesson plan guide. And again, this is available on the NRPA Commit to Health website. And I want to point out again that you need to make sure that you get the right lesson guide for the appropriate grade that you're working with. So this particular guide is for grades 3 through 5. You see the red circle indicating that. So what we want to do is look at this guide, and you see that the first column has a title week. And so going down that column, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, because each month has 4 weeks in it. So during week 1 in September, sometime during the week, you want to be able to move across the first row and try out some of these items that are listed under each of the columns on the sheet. There are little check boxes on there for people who are like me that like to check things off and feel like I'm making progress that way. So that's why the check boxes are there. You don't have to do that, but that's just in case you want to actually track what you're doing. Okay, so the first thing that it says in column 2 of week 1 is send home the monthly newsletter. So what you're going to do to implement this little piece is to go to the website, download the newsletter, print it out, and send it home with all of the children. If you don't have the resources to send it home to all of the children, if you have a website, you can post it there.
Yep.
You can blow it up in a large size and put it on the front door of your building. That's another way to be able to distribute the information. But again, we really want to make sure that you are reading the newsletters with the children first, send them home to parents, post them in all other locations so that you can share the great news about those foods and beverages.
Yep. And I'll just add, we know that many of our park and recreation agencies already have newsletters that they're sending out to parents for these after-school programs. So it's also something that you could add in if you want to pull one of the recipes or if you want to pull some of those health tips. We have seen folks do that as well. And in addition, if you use email or some type of newsletter program, electronic newsletter program, then by all means you can include these materials within that as well.
Right, and like they were saying earlier, putting nutrition information on menus.
Yep.
You can put some food of the month tips or even a short recipe if there's room on menus that might be going home to the children as well. Or ask your, if you have a food service department that's providing your foods and they're posting the menus, ask them to do this.
Yep.
So find ways to be able to promote it. So the next thing that we want to do is make sure that we hang up the posters. And you can see inside this red circle, it gives you a little reminder to hang those up. And so again, these are in large printed form from NRPA, but they're also on the website, so you can print smaller versions or blow them up really big and put them all over your site. You can see here some samples from some other colleagues in locations such as yours. You can see the Commit to Health, I guess that's the HIPAA general poster.
Yep.
On the left, where the yellow background is, and then right along the rest of the bulletin board are the Foods of the Month posters for that particular month. The cute little girls in the bottom have laminated versions of the newsletter, and I'm not really sure how they're using it, but I can imagine they laminated the front and back of the newsletter so that children would be able to share it, you know, all month to figure out what's going on. And then the posters as well. That is so far away. It's so hard to read. So going to the next column, that's column 3. And so in column 3, it is giving you examples of how you can actually use the activity and coloring sheets. So on the sheet it says, use the adjectives for tomatoes sheet. So this is where you would work with the 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. 5th graders might think it's too easy, but have them do it with the younger kids. But they're going to go through and figure out what adjectives they can use to describe tomatoes, which is the food of the month for this month. And there's also a writing component at the bottom.
Oh, that's right.
In addition to the sheets that are on the website that are coloring sheets or activity sheets, there are other suggestions on how to focus on the foods of the month through arts and crafts projects, and such as this cute little garland that was made by one of the park sites during our summer.
That was in the city of San Antonio.
I love that garland. It's great.
Yeah.
So then in column 4, we want to start focusing on the experiential activities, and in this particular instance it's the sunlight to food experiment. And so in this particular experiment, which is explained in great detail over the 2 pages that are listed as sunlight to food, these children will have a couple of tomato seedlings or tomato plants, not ones that you really want to put in the ground probably, because they're going to have to go through this a little bit of trauma, but it's going to be teaching the children about how sun supplies food to the plant. So you're going to take pieces of foil and wrap it around some of the leaves to block the sunlight so that you can see what happens to those leaves when they're blocked from the sun. And so children can see, they turn colors, they, wilt away, and it, of course, harms the plant. So hopefully only a few of those leaves you can pick off and then put it in the ground.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to teach children science about chlorophyll, about gardening, and all of these things all in one experiment.
Yeah, I love that so many of the activities incorporate those different aspects of math, of science, of art, really helping to develop all of those important aspects of education.
Yes, and we try to get food involved too. And so this is another activity for September where it's called Tasty Tomatoes. Let's try them. And so this sheet walks you through thinking about how do you present tomatoes to children. You want to put them on a nice tray. You want to slice them so they can see it. It talks about what vitamins and nutrients are in the tomatoes, so you can talk through this with them. And then it tells you that you need to reward children for trying things that might be new. So I put together last night at my house these two little trays. The one at the top, of course, was pre-sliced, and the bottom one was sliced. But try to make it colorful, shiny. I like this particular tray at my house. Just my kids love it too. When they see it pull out, they just get excited. So putting colorful fruits and vegetables on shiny things, like put aluminum foil in the bottom of a pan to make it shiny, really helps bring some bling to it, and they really have fun. And then if you can actually take some of the fruits and vegetables that might be tried raw and put them onto something simple like this pizza that my husband and I actually had last night, peppers and from our garden too.
It looks really good, yeah.
It's great to even have it finished. So we can have it raw with ranch dressing, tomatoes, just pop them in your mouth like grapes, and then make something. And then at the end, this is a great certificate that is associated with this activity, but you can use it with any tasting, the 2-Bite Club. So anytime a child in your site tries something and they try it twice, give them a certificate right on there what they tried, and hopefully by the end of the school year you'll have a bunch of these certificates for each child.
Yeah, and I want to point out a couple of things as we're going through that taste testing aspect. Some of you guys have received grant funding from us to be able to help with the cost of this food. Others of you have not. It's a really great idea to reach out to some of those local players in your community. Talk to local farmers, talk to a local farmers market, talk to a local grocery store. See if they'd be willing to donate some of this produce to your program. I think you'll find that most of them will. And again, in a taste testing too, it doesn't have to be an entire meal that we're thinking about. We're thinking about a small amount, something that a child can have a couple of bites of and understand what that fruit or vegetable is. So just keep those things in mind. And one other point that I want to make, and we saw that this was really successful in San Antonio actually, and some of you guys may have the capacity to do this, others might not, but they actually printed off all of these materials and put together a binder for their summer camp programming that featured all of this. As you can see, we have so many materials, so I think it really helps to get a feel for all of the different lessons that are included and all of the different activities if you're actually able to print them out and organize them into a little binder. That way you can see what is really included, and perhaps you can provide the site leader with this notebook, or you can go through this in your staff training. It's a really great idea to see the suite of materials that we've put up on our website, and we highly encourage you to do that just so you're aware of everything that's there.
I think that's a great idea, sort of your encyclopedia of Commit to Help for the Foods of the Month. I think that's a great idea. And getting to the point of food tastings and food preparation, the experiential activities that you can do regarding cooking and food preparation make a huge impact on these children. And they don't have to be cooking. The picture on the left is a picture of a bunch of children with fruit on sticks.
Yep.
So fruit on skewers. That doesn't require cooking. It's colorful, tasty. It's going to make an impact. And actually, theirs were really tall. It looked like they're about 14 inches.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fruit on those sticks. But trying to find ways to, give them opportunities, like said before, with safe knives if you have them for cooking. And then as adults, again, as role models, be up there teaching, cooking, having fun, so the children can see, even if their parents don't cook that much, they can see that it can be something that there is a fun family activity.
Yep.
And I wanted to put this up because the berries were such a great time in June. Everyone had a great time with berries, because one of the experiential activities was using berries as paint. And so you take strawberries or especially blueberries and use those instead of paint, or with paintbrushes, or even just as berries to make art. And you can see someone here made some palm trees out of berries. And I really loved this image on social media that was sent to you, I guess, where the strawberries were made into these, little creatures. Very cute. So be creative with your foods of the month and do fun things like this to really, have children, make them remember what's going on with these foods.
And I know we've got a slide on this later, but share what you're doing with us. Send us photos, put it on social media. We would love to feature you guys on NRPA's social media accounts. And it also helps to inform other park and recreation agencies of how you're being creative and how you're impacting these kids. So real quick, I will address one question that came in from Colleen. And yes, all of these sessions are being recorded, and we will be sending those out within the next week or so once we have all of the videos back. So we encourage you to share these videos with your staff members who couldn't attend today. It is some great info. We totally agree with you on that.
And I love what Manuel is saying about making his own ranch dressing. I love that, because bottled ranch dressing isn't always the best choice, but I love that you're using non-fat Greek yogurt. It has that extra protein in it. I think that's a great option. It really helps children be willing to eat those peppers.
And I also see that Manuel printed 17 of the binders with all of the materials, which was a monumental task. Yeah, we certainly understand that. As we said, it is a very significant amount of materials, but we hope that you found that beneficial, and now all 17 of your sites sound like they've got the materials handy. So hopefully you only have to do that once, and now you've got them.
Great. So back to the lesson guide. Again, in week 1, we want to read across the row, and we're now in column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Column 5, which is the USDA materials. And so the recommendation in week 1 is to read My Plate at Home to the children, and then send the printout home. And this is a really great resource. You can get it from USDA as well. But it's a great resource because it explains the different components of the My Plate that children are learning throughout a variety of the educational tools here, so that they will understand what their child is talking about when they're talking about dividing their plate and making sure that half of it, is the fruits and vegetables, and what is the little blue circle for dairy. They'll understand it because you sent this home. And again, before you send things home, try to read them to the children so the children know how to be educators of their parents as well.
Yep. And I do see a question that came in from Aaron, who's curious about low-carb diets. So we had a similar question that referred to diets and food allergies and things like that earlier in the day. And that is certainly always a challenge. You're going to have participants in your program who have different food dietary requirements, and you will have to learn to address those. This program, this Foods of the Month curriculum, does have a month that's focused on whole grains, but we don't go too much into different diets or prescribed diets at all. We really try to show you what different foods and food groups that are healthy and that make up a healthy and well-balanced diet, but we're not going to get specific into the diets.
Yeah, we're talking about the food, the whole foods, the how do we eat nutritious foods, and teaching that nutritious foods can be yummy.
Yeah.
Get the children to try them.
And we've got a request, Manuel, for that ranch dressing recipe of yours. So if you want to send that over to me, I'm happy to distribute that to the group. It sounds like there are some curious people out there who want to know how to make this Greek yogurt ranch dressing. So great work.
Alrighty, so again, on week 1, USDA column, it recommends using the My Plate crossword puzzle with the children who are in grades 3 through 5. And again, you've already talked to the children about the My Plate through the My Plate at Home take-home piece and through some of the other activities you've done. Now they have some time to do an independent crossword puzzle to make sure that they're getting what you're teaching. So now in week 1, we're going to be all the way across in the last column, which is about fun, being active. So for example, on Monday, the first Monday of the month, we recommend that you read this. It's a Being a Fit Kid document that USDA created as part of their emphasis on physical activity with the My Plate program. And so there are 10 suggestions for how children can be healthy. And what we recommend is you read this with the children and have them get up and do a couple of these activities. And then again, if you can, send this home as a take-home to educate the parents as well. And the point of this particular column in the lesson guide is to reinforce that we want to be active every day. That's why Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all listed for each week, and with little boxes that you can check off if the children have been active in a very specific way. But we wanted to also give you a few specific suggestions like we did for Monday in the first week with the Fit Kid handout. And then also on Wednesdays during this month, we suggest that you do this every Wednesday, which is a Be Active Your Way relay, which is a lot of fun. And this is a USDA recommended activity that links nutritious foods with physical activity. And it's all spelled out how to do it. It's very simple and fun. And then you'll find out throughout the year that some of the activities in the Fun Being Active category on the lesson guides are ones that you can use when there's a blizzard outside, or when it's really hot, or when it's raining. There's some suggestions in there that you might want to pull and put in a notebook, because they won't be specific to 1 month really.
Yep.
But you might want to pull these out whenever you're having one of those days that you can't get outside and be active. So some of them are suggestions on inside activity.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more questions that are kind of going back to that diet question. So Aaron was actually curious about the low carb diet because he was concerned about kids who are diabetic and how to address that with the HEPA standards. So I think you raise a really important point, Aaron. It's important to remember that this curriculum is not prescribing diets as well as the HEPA standards. We're offering kind of best practices and recommendations on how to prepare most of your foods that are being served within your after-school setting and your summer camp setting. So I think you're always going to have some different individual accommodations that might need to be made for certain participants of your program, and that's something that would probably be best to talk with their parents about if there are specific dietary requirements or restraints that you guys should know about. As for the food tastings and things like that, again, we're talking about implementing these things in small amounts. We're not really talking about that meal provision aspect. And then MJ's got a great question of going back to that diet, and I'll let you take this one, but why should cheese, milk, dairy products be non-fat? Dr. Huller?
Well, there's lots of evidence that the full fat versions of dairy products have an impact on cardiovascular disease, but there's even more on weight, because there were a whole bunch of articles that came out that I guess it was about 12 months ago that made it seem like full fat dairy helps you lose weight. I think that was a little misinterpreted, and there are a lot of magazines and journal articles that have said that, and one in particular is Nutrition Action. And if you look online for Nutrition Action, it's one of my favorite layperson-friendly nutrition information magazines that comes out every 2 months. They did a whole spiel on this, and it was really emphasizing that the full fat versions have significantly more calories, which is something that all of us are trying to bring down. And so that's one thing. And the science is not necessarily showing that eating full fat is not harmful to cholesterol and raising those types of levels of cholesterol and saturated fat on the heart and that type of thing, because high fat dairy products have saturated fat in them too. So it might be, appropriate to be focusing on non-fat to reduce the fat, but also because of calories. And the same with meats. The lean proteins have a lot less fewer calories than the darker meats. And that's something that we're talking about in some of the curricula pieces that are part of this program as well.
Awesome.
Calories.
Great. Yeah.
So on the lesson guide, we just went through the first week. And so what you would do in week 2 in September is start where that little circle is. See the number 2 there? Start there and start working across that row. And for each of these items, you'll see a whole nother set of fun activities for you to be working on with the children on whole grains and tomatoes for the month of September. And again, throughout all of this, remember that resources for the home are available. They're not necessarily on the lesson guides. So you're going to have to go to the website, remember to do that, or put them all in your notebook and download these so that you can be remembering to help this information reach the home. And then again, we want to emphasize this text program. We really want to encourage you to sign up and for you to encourage your parents to sign up.
Yep.
This is for any adult to sign up for. And again, it's going to take marketing on your part. Posting posters when you have a parent night, help the parents perhaps sign up for it because they may not be used to signing up for a mass text program. You might have to help them with that. Send flyers home. You can print it on menus, how to sign up. All kinds of ways to try to promote this program. But it's a free texting program. It doesn't cost anything unless your carrier charges you for receiving text, but most carriers don't anymore.
Right. Yeah, I actually just got a copy of a fall program guide from the city of Winchester, who has actually put it right in their fall program guide, so it's going out to everyone in that city. So great job, Winchester, and we encourage others to do the same.
Yes, that's great. Promote it in any way you can. And talking about promoting, I'm learning a lot about social media. I'm not the expert. Allison and Kelly are always on social media, and it's obvious you are too. Look at these great pictures from some of the sites implementing this program during the summer. Having lots of fun.
Yeah, we love it, guys. Keep those social media photos and stories coming in. We really encourage you to put those items up. Make sure that you have a photo release from anybody involved in your program, but continue to highlight that great work that you're doing. And along the lines of social media too, I also want to remind you guys that we have a great little incentive program going right now to submit a success story for NRPA's database. You could actually win a $250 gift card. So we really want those stories to come in. Talk about your success with implementing nutrition literacy. Talk about your success with having a great physical activity program. Talk about relationships with partners in your community. It's a really great tool to just publish the work that you're doing and be recognized for that. And when you're posting on social media, make sure that you are tagging NRPA. That way we will be able to retweet it or put that picture on our Facebook page and give you some credit as well. So we love to see those stories coming in, and we love to see your successes, and we want to show those off also. Let's see, we've got another question here, back to that kind of diet question, and they are curious to know about lactose-free milk. So obviously we know that there are a lot of children who have dairy allergies, and this actually does come up in our sites quite a bit, especially when they're making things like smoothies or something and they might want to incorporate dairy. So do you have an opinion about if lactate is okay to use?
I would say it's fine, but I think like you said earlier, I think understanding the sensitivities that your children might have to peanuts, because we do talk about nuts in some of these activities. I was just working on a piece of the curriculum that was on good fats, and nuts is included there, so you have to be careful about nuts. If someone has a gluten issue, be careful with the whole grains. If you have dairy issues, be careful. It might be that you can use lactate or you can't use any of it. You might have to use soy or some other product. But again, make sure that you're scanning your environment with respect to these types of child sensitivities to make sure that when you're doing a food tasting, the child may not know that this is something that they can't have. But of course, usually the older children, they do. They know that, but just be careful.
Yeah. That's great. All right, so I think we've got a couple minutes for questions. If you guys have any more questions about implementing a nutrition literacy curriculum in your before and after school program, or about these Foods of the Month materials, we've got a little bit of time left, and we would love to answer any questions you have. Let's see, anything else that kind of sticks out? We've got a question here. about social media, actually. And absolutely, if you guys are not allowed to post anything on social media, if you've got some kind of rules and regulations around that, which a lot of agencies do, please, absolutely, you can send them to us to post. Again, we would ask that you have a photo release form signed, just in case we post that. We would need to make sure that everything has a signed photo release as well. But please send those over to me, and we would love to get those featured. And I think just the last thing that I'll say before we take a little break, and then we'll just come back for final questions, is that, and we've touched on this a few times today with all of the different aspects of Commit to Health, but really making it your own and understanding that each agency is different, and within each agency, each park and recreation site is different. We understand that there may be some programs who only have the capability of implementing this curriculum 10 minutes a day. There might be some who want to do it for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. You know, it's really up to you guys and how you see that it fits in. But we know how valuable these materials are. We know how valuable nutrition education is for teaching these young kids healthy habits from an early age. And we're starting to see those health changes play out over time. We're starting to see those obesity numbers go down in the early years. So we want to continue to see those levels stay at where they are or get lower. So we're really excited about this curriculum. We hope that you guys have been finding it valuable throughout the summer, and we hope that many more of you will continue to use it going into the fall. And this is a great question, actually, from Debbie in Kansas. Hi, Debbie. And she wants to know if the materials will change and how often they will change, like if the January month will be the same next year. So actually the foods of the month are going to stay the same for quite some time. We probably won't change those for a while. But
the content or the focus food could potentially change.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Especially, I would say, for cruciferous vegetables, for example, because in the newsletter we're not going to be able to do a whole lot of, we won't be able to have a recipe on every cruciferous vegetable. Mm-hmm. So this year it might be there's a coleslaw, I think, and, maybe broccoli and cauliflower, but no Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
And then maybe the next year you can add in some recipes about Brussels sprouts. So the actual content might change, but the food and food groups should stay the same. And that's going to help for your planning purposes, especially if you can find a way to integrate some of these foods of the month into the menus, into the menu items you're serving.
Yeah.
In some of my projects, they specifically menu the foods of the month, the first day, the last day of the month, and at least one other day each week during the month to help with that experiential tasting opportunity for children. Mm-hmm. So if you can work with your food provisioner to do that, that would be great, but that means you have to plan.
Right.
So the calendar should stay the same.
Yep, the calendar will stay the same, but like an example, a perfect example from earlier in this session, we had a lot of people who are interested in that ranch dressing recipe. So we're always happy to add in new resources. If you have healthy recipes that you guys have been using that you think that your kids love and that the parents have really enjoyed, then please send those things to us. We also encourage you to send additional resources that you've found beneficial to us. Earlier this year, we had a couple of people who are really emphasizing sugary beverages within their programs, and so they had some great resources that they sent over to us on, sugar content in different beverages and fruit juices and soft drinks or pop. So we're constantly looking to expand these materials, and we want to encourage your participation in that. And back to the social media. So great question, Christine. We do have photo releases that we have sent out to our grantees for that Walmart photo release. That needs to be signed when you are submitting photos for our final report for that grant. So if you have other photos that you want to share with us that you want to feature on social media, or you want us to feature on social media, we just need an in-house photo release from your agency, or you can use that other NRPA photo release that we provided. When we get around to the final report in the winter, you will need to submit photos with that Walmart photo release. So hopefully that helps to clarify the photo release question. All right. Well, I'm going to pause for one more minute here. If there are any last questions on nutrition literacy or for Dr. Holler, we will take those now.
And I guess one thing I did want to mention is that I know that some sites, hopefully none of yours, don't have the ability to do food-based activities, like as a food tasting or as a cooking demonstration. And so in those instances where that's happened, a lot of times I try to encourage the sites to bring in big pictures of the food as they would look if you were able to do some of these things with, and talk about what happens to food when it is cooked, like broccoli changes color, changes texture, so that children can start being aware that these changes happen to food when they're cooked, so that they don't just throw it away. In some of my schools in West Virginia right now, the children, when I walk through the cafeterias, they say, I don't care for this broccoli because it's not bright green anymore. Well, it's been partially boiled, so it turned a little bit more of a earthy green, and they think that means it is bad.
Yeah.
And so while you may not be able to actually have food demonstrations, tastings, and cooking activities, still try to focus on some of that learning as much as you can, even without the knives and hot plates.
Absolutely. Yep. There are so many different things that you can do. It doesn't have to be being able to do that physical taste test. You know, it's if you're in a situation where you're really only able to share that information, then share the information. You never know, that child could go home that night and say, I learned about broccoli today. Mom, Dad, can we go buy some from the store? So, you know, always be sharing that information. Again, take advantage of these resources, take advantage of the USDA resources. And if you have other items you want to share with us, we encourage you to do that. So Dr. Danielle's Holler's contact information is listed on your screen, but you can also get in touch with me. You guys should have my information. If not, I'll make sure you do. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Holler.
Thank you.
And we will take just a quick break. We'll pick back up at 4:15 and we'll have some time for final questions.